side. So, aren't you glad that you don't have to do that? We're going to be dealing with diversity and racism, possibly. Hopefully not. As I just mentioned to you, I'm definitely not a racist. And so I have some strong feelings about race and culture. I've written a lot on culture in my education, and I value it highly. So this class is about writing. I know that our school policies have focused on this because there's so much going on. But this class is about writing, and we may have never realized that before we know how to write, we have to know how to think. Writing is a cross-discipline skill. It involves all of your other classes and fields of study. It includes psychology and sociology, political science, technology, religion, art, history. But more than anything, it includes you. Your writing is about your thoughts and your feelings. We're going to be curious, and at times we're going to be uncomfortable. So we'll be talking about ourselves, and we're going to be talking about others, and we'll be discussing more about how we're going to do that. Because we're going to be talking about people, the university has put a high value on the current people climate. I firmly do believe that Black Lives Matter, and please don't get offended when I say all lives matter. I think my little white grandchildren, and my little Spanish granddaughter, and my little Russian grandchildren, and my Kenyan grandchildren, and my Russian wife, and my American Indian Cherokee grandmother, all matter just as much as anybody else. And so I think most of you probably feel that way as all. Some people have just, overreacted because of emotion, because there has been a lot of distress and suffering among black people. My wife is Jewish. Her family were persecuted, and she reminds me of the Holocaust and things like that. I don't know. I think her parents came here before the Holocaust took place, but they suffered persecution in Russia many years ago. There's a big difference between being colorblind and cultural or racial awareness. Some people think we need to be colorblind. In other words, we need to, just filter out the differences between people, like saying race does not exist. But that's not really the right approach. The right approach is to be culturally aware and appreciative of different cultures. Being culturally aware means that instead of instead you try to understand differences and appreciate the differences between people of different races. Diversity should be one of the most appreciated attributes of humanity, if for no other reason because it provides great food. I don't know too many people that does not like different kinds of cooking. So diversity in culture is something that is important. I've written a lot of journals or several journals on that diversity and stereotyping and prejudice and things like that. One of the things that I've pointed out, and I'll probably have it somewhere in one of my presentations, is that diversity is what makes the human world safe from being ruled by an oligarchy. In other words, dictators love homogeny. Dictators want everybody to think alike, want everybody to lockstep and groupthink. They want everybody to toe the government policy or whatever the case may be. And so in general, under the concept of homogeny, where you only have one basic culture that's all alike, you don't have as much safety when it comes to people doing things. Of course, diversity allows for more innovation, more creativity, and many other things. let's talk a little bit about stereotyping. Stereotyping is where you put everybody or group everybody into one particular group and apply certain attributes to that group as a whole. It could be an ethnic group, or it could be some other kind of diverse group. It could be gender-based, it could be orientation-based. There's a lot of different ways of stereotyping. I do want you to know that racism is wrong, but bias is not. And I need to explain the difference between bias and prejudice. And one of the reasons why I'm saying that is because when we do our writing and we talk about writing, all writing has bias. And bias simply is another way of saying all writing is motivated. It's got an agenda. There's a motivation for it. What the difference is that prejudice is wrong. Prejudice means to prejudge, and it's not right to prejudge, partially because one reason is if you don't know a person and you don't know the facts, you really don't know who they are. For example, if I'm walking down the street and you can tell I'm a white guy, all right, and I'm walking down the street and you see this young black man walking up the street in a hoodie on the left side of the street, and you see this white guy walking up the street in a real nice suit on the right side of the street. You might think, well, which side of the street am I going to go to? Would I move over to the side of the street where the white guy is, or will I move over to the side of the street where the black guy is? Now, if I'm prejudiced and prejudging them, I'm liable to be in trouble because of the fact that the black guy in the hoodie, he might be a preacher, and the white guy in the suit might be a mafioso. So that's prejudice, where you're prejudging somebody and you don't have the facts. And just like racism is prejudice, and it's not based on reality. So this is something that we're going to be talking about. How do you find reality and truth-telling when it comes to writing? You've probably heard it said, garbage in, garbage out. We will, in our face-to-face class, we're going to be doing an icebreaker, and we'll get more on that. But let me quickly get into our rules of engagement. With this is the very important for our class, and I want us to keep it in mind, whether we're online or face-to-face. We will be debating, writing arguments, dealing with culture and diversity, and using writing to challenge ideas. Problem solving, we're going to be searching for meaning and truth. Knowing that things we write and say might possibly become artifacts in the annals of history. In other words, I'm hoping that you will know that in this class you're going to be trying to write something that can make a difference and get things done. That's what we call an artifact. Unless you intend to live in a cave or alone the rest of your life, you'll find that the most valuable skill that you can have is relationship building. So you may know this, maybe not, but most people get their job hunting wrong. They approach their job hunting upside down. They begin by looking online ads and want ads and sending out resumes that compete with thousands of other people. The truth is that most people get hired because of people they know. The number one skill employers look for in hiring is communication skills, and that is why the interview is so important. So forgive me if I have to remind us that even old hound dogs like to be loved. It's a sad affair to note that we live in a throwaway society where people have trouble making or keeping good relationships. So rule of engagement number one, relationships are more valuable than possessions. This came from John Maxwell. Who you are matters more than what you have. Who you know matters more than what you have. The second rule of engagement is a man persuaded against his will is of the same opinion still. So we will avoid conflict argument. Instead, we're going to argue based on the merits, based on logic, based on reason, based on critical thinking. When we talk about argument there, we're talking about working out issues and working out differences in issues, getting things done when there's a problem. And last of all, this is from Stephen Covey, a very beautiful rule. Seek first to understand before you seek to be understood. That means you've got to be a person that knows how to actively listen to other people. So we will be talking about that. In our class, I'd like us to kind of discuss this. And we will do this in the face-to-face class. Why are relationships in marriage, employment, or families more difficult, and what make them different today? And another thing to discuss is what would it take to get you to change your mind about something? New information, better information. What is the difference between knowing his truth or her truth and knowing the truth? Does everyone have the same version of reality? So we're going to be dealing with that in the classroom. Some of these other slides I'm going to just leave and go through for the classroom environment, or I'll make notes. One of the things that I want to point you to is a website or a writing tool called Scrivener. Scrivener is much better than Word. I've used it to make this syllabus, and I use it in most all of my writing. It's a software designed for writers that allows you to break up writing into chunks and move them around as you need to. So I'm going to encourage you to link onto the link that's provided and check out Scrivener. It's a very inexpensive program, but it's well worth the money. Another thing that I want you to consider is going to the library, and you need a good citation tool. EndNote is free to download and free for students, and so let me recommend getting EndNote and downloading that and putting it on your computer. There's others. You can also use the Zotero, or you can use a citation tool called CiteFast, which is a website. I do recommend you having a good citation tool because you will be doing MLA citations in this class. Here's some other slides that I'm just going to go through pretty quickly, and you can look at later.